All right, everybody, welcome back to the Exploring the Blockchain podcast, where we document our experiences of learning about the blockchain, interview guests and experts in the space, and keep you updated on the latest trends in the industry. I'm your co-host, Zane.
And I'm Josh. Today we are joined by Colby from GetProtocol, who is going to discuss his thoughts on NFT use cases and specifically using NFTs for ticketing. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what you do at GetProtocol and what your company's mission is?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me, first of all, guys. It's a pleasure. So my name's Colby. I'm on the marketing and comms team at GetProtocol. We're based in the Netherlands. There's about 55 of us now, mainly in the office, but a couple of people remote. And what we do is NFT ticketing. And we've been basically registering tickets on chain now since 2016, 2017. So we're old timers in the space. We've kind of seen things come and go, and we've just been trugging along, developing our infrastructure. And essentially, what we do is we allow ticketing companies and event organizers to issue tickets for their events, and those tickets are minted as NFTs on Polygon. And basically, we allow these ticketeers to use our infrastructure, and it's essentially like a seamless flow. So, like as an attendee, I can buy a ticket. I don't need to know about crypto or blockchain. I just go to a web shop, buy my ticket, pay in US dollars, euros, etc. Go to the event, have a great time, and then that's fundamentally registered on the blockchain. And then there's like some post-event really cool things you can do with NFTs that are completely optional. So that's essentially like the lowdown on GetProtocol.
Cool. You said after the event, there's cool things you can do. What does that include? I'm curious.
Yeah, so we kind of see it as like extending the life cycle of a ticket, you know? So, I mean, a traditional ticket, you buy it, maybe it gets resold, you go, you get it scanned, and it goes in the bin, right? I mean, with NFTs, we kind of see it as this, obviously, because it's an immutable link on the blockchain with the smart contract. There's a lot of things that you can do actually before the event and after the event that really like extends the life cycle of a ticket, as I said, and almost kind of brings it full circle. So really what we're experimenting with, so we've been registering tickets as NFTs fundamentally since May of last year. So we've kind of gone through this full year now of having that innate transparency. So like if I buy a ticket, I can check that it's been registered, I can check the life cycle. And now we're experimenting with, okay, if I go to the event and I want to claim my NFT, say I'm really interested, I have created a crypto wallet, what you can basically do is have it claimed, and then it becomes like a post-event collectible. So the collectible can have imagery. That imagery can actually update. It becomes like a really nice memento piece. And then because it's obviously created by a smart contract, you can actually use that smart contract to plug it into different applications. And when you plug it into different applications, that NFT actually becomes like a ticket or like an access token post event, except into like digital experiences or a community. So it's kind of been that progression from transparency during a sale to post-event collectibles to now in this kind of frontier of how does this become a community building tool for fans and artists to connect post-event.
Sounds like a great use case. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring you here and learn a little bit more about GetProtocol was I'm doing an internship with a film festival in Los Angeles, and they're doing a specific conference about digital Hollywood and combining like the blockchain and films. And so one of the tasks I was given was to how can we use NFTs as possibly a ticket, but one of the issues that I thought about was the ease of use for customers, attendees who are not crypto native, they don't know how to use a wallet, and transaction costs. Can you talk a little bit about those areas and how GetProtocol kind of benefits from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. So I think immediately one thing that's benefited us is having set up so early on in the space. So like we set up in 2016, and back then even the word blockchain was just completely foreign to pretty much everyone. You know, you looked like you had clown paint on your face. You know, if you went to a event organizer deal and you said, "Oh, we're registering everything on the blockchain," you know. So immediately from that get-go, we kind of knew this needs to be like it just doesn't exist and actually like benefit from behind the scenes rather than actually up front. So I think you're 100% correct. I mean, even now, most people just don't have the tech savviness to deal with NFTs and crypto wallets in order to attend an event. And we are still firm believers that it's just still too early. I mean, we would love to be able to have a completely native, NFT right from the beginning. But at the end of the day, we really want to be able to benefit the mainstream event industry. We think there are fundamental problems in the ticketing industry. So honestly, I think it's about creating the ticketing experience first and foremost, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You want to go see your favorite artist, you want to have a good time. The last thing you want to do is be worrying about the ticket, right? It should do its job. So it's really this interesting balance of how much do you explore, right? How much do you bring to the forefront? Do you actually let people know it's registered on the blockchain and have that transparency? Do you let them find out in their own time? And kind of where we've settled on that chart is making those links and those things readily accessible, but not like pushed in anyone's face. So if I buy a ticket, I can actually, it can be the event organizer and the artist that actually gives that first introduction. Because if you get a warm introduction from like the person you really admire, and they go, "Oh, by the way, if you really enjoy this event, we can continue to keep that connection going post event if you claim the NFT." Then I think a lot of people will actually go, "Oh, hang on a second, I've heard bad things about this, or I don't know about it. But if my favorite artist is, doing something with it, I'll go and experiment." So we kind of see it as one of those things, yeah, where we would like it to be completely optional and incentivize claiming rather than actually forcing claiming. And then on to your other point about transaction fees, I mean, so the way our flow works is the end user doesn't need to know anything about crypto, right? Like, so they don't need to know about confirmation times, transaction fees, paying in crypto. All of that is actually handled between the protocol and the ticketeer. So the way it works is basically we have a native token called Get, and as a ticketeer, if I'm going to be doing, say, 50,000 tickets expected over the next couple of months, I just basically go onto a dashboard, like an integrated dashboard. I top up my Get, and then essentially that is used to pay for the fuel and the transactions, etc., through the protocol. So we find that's quite a nice way of doing it, where it's the ticketeer, of course, is paying on-chain fees, which really helps with accounting, auditability. But then the end user, the EO, they don't need to know anything about crypto or pay in crypto.
One of the things I did want to ask you about is selling tickets as an NFT a big enough, value to the consumer to be able to create this entire new platform? One of the things you mentioned is that you guys see a lot of problems with the ticketing industry. I'm curious what those problems are and why they're big enough to warrant this entire new system of ticketing.
Great question. So first of all, we kind of see ourselves as Web 2.5. So we're 100% like we're not Web 3, but we're also not Web 2. And we kind of see like ourselves as the gateway to Web 3 through Web 2. You kind of have like the Web 2 funnel that leads into Web 3 personal, more deeper experiences. But yeah, in general, it's an interesting one. So we basically have made our whole back infrastructure as the NFT, right? So like the whole protocol, right now the developers have done something insane where we I think mint millions of tickets basically in like a month's time span. So it went from being, okay, let's register stuff on the blockchain, and it's very, very slow back in the day, to being able to actually batch the transactions, put them on Polygon, and handle serious volume. But the thing is, there's a balance between the Web 2 infrastructure and the Web 3 infrastructure, right? So as I mentioned, you obviously pay in fiat currency, you go through a web shop. So what actually happens is, as an attendee, I buy my ticket. I then actually download a mobile app. The ticket is basically kept in the mobile app, so it's as a QR code, and that QR code basically rotates every 15 seconds, and it's also tied to like the SIM card. So we've actually got a balance of Web 3 to Web 2. The Web 2 does a lot of the like verification and validation. So like I can't screenshot my ticket, I can't take it out of the mobile app, and in doing so, that actually eradicates the ticket scalping side of things. So yeah, like when we say there's inherent problems in the ticketing industry, I think the major two are, okay, does the event organizer and does the artist keep control of A, the revenue, and B, the data? And one of the major things, and it absolutely gobsmacks me that this is still a problem, but if I buy a ticket and then I decide to put it on a third-party marketplace and then sell it to someone else, the artist completely loses the connection there. So they don't know who owns that ticket. They don't make the revenue from the third-party marketplace, which is huge because I mean, well, to be honest, it could be an entire conversation just on that, right? But one of the big things we saw during COVID is what happens if I need to actually cancel the show or move the venue or like update the amount of people that can actually go because of COVID restrictions. Say the artist gets COVID, the venue is no longer compliant. Well, in a traditional ticketing system, it's like best of luck, right? Like you do the whole redemption thing, you've got to let people know by email. It's a whole mess. So by keeping the ticket within the infrastructure and having that like validation so it can't be taken out, if you need to change the venue, if you need to change the date, if you need to just do a full refund, whatever it may be, you can just do it by the press of a button. So that's a lot of Web 2 infrastructure that we've built over multiple years, specifically because we knew that we had to provide the best ticketing like system that we could. And when it comes to an event organizer, if they don't really care about NFTs or blockchain and they want like the best ticketing, they want the insights, data, whatever it may be. If you go, oh yeah, but the tickets are minted as NFTs, well they'll go, well I need the data first and foremost, so I'm going to go somewhere else. So yeah, we've really had that balancing act. And now it's funny, like after the pandemic, we're getting to that point where NFTs and that connection post event are becoming huge topics in the event entertainment industry. And that's precisely because it sucks to connect with people nowadays, right? Like, what social platform do you use? Do you use Instagram and then maybe you catch their posts? Do you use email and it hits your spam filter? What happens if you get shadow banned from a social media platform, etc.? So all of a sudden NFTs have popped up not only as like a sort of new revenue stream, but actually more importantly as a connection tool. So that's really the area that we're looking to really tap into.
Yeah, a lot of the Web3 space and NFTs really pitches community, and I think that is a very important aspect. What other ticketing applications, protocols are in the Web3 industry, and what makes GetProtocol stand out?
Excellent question. Yeah, I mean, all of these have been great questions, by the way. But yeah, so it's an interesting one. So there are other Web3 based ticketeers. One that comes to mind is Yellowheart, for example, based in the US. And to be honest, we really like seeing other competitors. We like seeing other NFT ticketing companies because the use case is so widespread in what it can do, and also like so nascent that any project, person, thing that pops up is amazing in general, because it's really the incumbent traditional ticketeers that need innovating and the inherent problem that lies in the ticketing industry. So yeah, it's great to see it. In terms of the differences, to be honest, I would just purely say it's like being able to actually buy a ticket in fiat currency and actually just not even need to know about NFTs and Web3 and blockchain or whatever it may be. I think pretty much every, and correct me if I'm wrong, a community member or someone watching this, but I haven't seen another ticketeer, Web3 ticketeer, that's actually gone for a mainstream attendee, which surprises me, to be honest, because I understand there's this feeling of being proud about what we're building, right? This new space, this new web, and trying to embrace it and push it forward. But I think a lot of people get either really intimidated, like they've heard about NFTs on the news and they've only heard bad things, or or B, they just don't care, right? Because they're just not interested in technology. It's a load of buzzwords. So I think ticketing is like the perfect thing where everyone can wrap their heads around it, right? Everyone knows what a ticket is. Everyone has fond memories of going to an event and getting a ticket. So if you actually introduce Web3 and like this new technology through that vehicle, like the world's your oyster, right? Think about how many millions of people could come into Web3 through ticketing. So that's why it just surprises me that these ticketeers decide to just go for something so nascent, and also something that's it's quite difficult to build this huge platform because ticketing is a huge infrastructure and only have like that revenue pool to draw from. So yeah, I would say that's the main difference.
I think what you said was interesting with this idea of Web 2.5. You know, we typically ask on this podcast, how do we get mass adoption for crypto? How do we get more people to use NFTs? And I think, doing it in terms of first fiat currency to kind of onboard these users is great. Have you seen success with that? Have you seen people, question, wait, what am I really buying here? How does this crypto thing work? And have you guys seen success in sort of this mid Web 2.5 area? Because I think that that's pretty interesting. I haven't heard a lot of people sort of view crypto and their products from that lens.
Well, the thing is, what I quite like about the way we started is, so say if you go back all the way to May of last year, so we at that point started registering every NFT on Polygon. Sorry, every ticket as an NFT on Polygon. And at that point, it wasn't possible to access that NFT, right? So it was quite literally you make an event through a ticketer using GetProtocol's infrastructure. All of those tickets are registered as NFTs on the blockchain, and that's it, right? You get the benefit of transparency, but you aren't able to claim it or do anything with it. And it's about that slowly, like opening the door, real carefully, and making sure you get enough people through that it actually, becomes effective. And yeah, it really depends on the event. Actually, there's a lot of events that simply want a great ticketing experience. They don't really care about the NFT side of it, and that's it, right? They still get the benefit, or rather the protocol's users still get the benefit of being able to see the ticket data, but for them, they didn't know about it, they didn't need to know about it, they just had their event. But now we're seeing, so last month we did Met Amsterdam, which was a big metaverse festival in Amsterdam, and that saw such a good engagement rate of people coming in claiming their NFT. So it was pretty much, I think it was like 60% of attendees basically claimed their NFT, and we did a bunch of cool post-event collectibles. In terms of mainstream events, it's still early days, right? Like maybe you'll get 5%, 10% at maximum claiming the NFT. And that's something we're really working on now, is how do you grow that number? How do you make that incentivization there? But again, it always comes back to, we want to give a good ticketing experience first and foremost, and then a Web3 experience second, right?
Makes sense. So one of our missions here at Exploring the Blockchain is to educate people, no matter how new their experience in the industry. How do you think the general public's understanding of NFTs primarily as art or profile pics will affect using NFTs as other use cases such as ticketing?
Yeah, that's a really interesting area actually, because I've thought about this a lot, right? Like, how much do you promote the NFT word, like the buzzword, and how much do you promote like the utility or the use case? If you think about listening to a song on Spotify, how often do you go to your friend, oh, do you have that MP3 of that song, right? Like, it's just foreign, you don't like put the extension, do you have that word file or whatever? Um, is that the case for NFTs? Is it going to be, we'll look back in 10 years and go, why the hell did we say NFT all the damn time? It's like, it's a collectible, or it's an art piece, or it's a ticket, or whatever it may be. But at the same time, then for ticketing, I'm so proud of the use case we have. I'm like, I really think we should be using NFT ticketing to show people that there are actual utility use cases of NFTs. And we're in that area where there's some big misconception about what NFTs can do. And therefore, it's really important to actually put NFT ticketing front and center as the slogan, so that people actually, it clicks with them, right? Okay, my ticket can be an NFT because it's a unique asset that they've just put on the blockchain. But honestly, like, art plays such a big role just in society, right? In general, in community building. I mean, I know profile photo projects get a lot of shit, but if you actually think about it, you get 10,000 people together. All of those 10,000 people get their own identity. They quite literally can tie their brand to that profile photo. You see like DJs, creatives actually become their profile photo. Like, that becomes their brand. So the ability for art to bring 10,000 people together from around the world and have that as an NFT community cannot be understated. Like, it is so powerful. And I think actually that is something that like the fan to artist relationship needs too. I think fans need to be able to have a voice in an artist's community, actually have ownership over, it could be a small percentage of royalties or whatever it may be. And it's that identity of art that is that like top layer that brings everything together. So I think as we go forward, we're going to need to experiment with that. And I'm hoping that we can do that through NFT tickets. And the reason is because if I'm an artist, I know 100% that everyone who has my NFT went to my event. It's like I can't be just buying the NFTs to sell them at a later date. It's quite literally impossible because the NFT only gets claimed and distributed if the ticket is scanned. So actually, the ticketing process becomes a verification for, are you my fan? Did you go to the event? And all of a sudden, those 10,000 people are actual fans, and they can get all of these perks of actually being in my community and voting and participating in the Discord and going to like token gated merchandise sites, etc., and using the NFT ticket as this persistent membership tool.
Right, makes a lot of sense. Great answer so far. We'll just ask you one more question, and then we'll close out. Uh, Curious about your roadmap, what you guys are looking to do in the future. You've kind of you initialized what the idea is, what you kind of laid the baseline. Curious what you guys are looking at in the next 3 to 5 years and what you hope to build.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting one. I mean, so where do we begin first and foremost? One of the really cool things that's completely out there is actually decentralized event financing that we piloted with the Lewis Capaldi event in Iceland in August. This is so unbelievably exciting because of the fact it is using NFTs as a collateral and basically allowing artists, event organizers, small to medium ticketing companies to access capital to finance their event that previously just wasn't possible. So to give you a little bit of context, like after 2008, basically over the last 12, 14 years, it's been really hard for a small to medium ticketing company to issue a loan or to help event organizers and artists actually set up and fund their events. And that's precisely because it's too much risk, right? Like if you think about all the macro factors that happen, if you think about like how stringent banks can be with giving out loans, the only place you could actually go to finance your event was a big ticketing company, like a big ticketing company that was, uh, listed as a publicly trading company. They can weaponize their balance sheet, provide loans, and because the ticketing company is the first one to touch the revenue, they get a very good gauge of, okay, can I actually give this loan out? The problem, of course, is the fact that um, they can basically sign contracts with these artists and event organizers like, okay, you're going to have to work with us for 10 years or whatever it may be. So we see DeFi as a way of basically like democratizing access to capital to every player in the ticketing industry, really Web3ifying it. And the way you do that is quite literally like you mint all the tickets as NFTs. You do that beforehand. You basically like have them as collateral, and then the protocol sources like DeFi investors distributes the capital, and the ticketeer can then help that EO finance their event. And then when those tickets are actually on sale to attendees, that revenue comes back and the tickets are unlocked. So you create this really cool system that goes way over my head, like the developers, absolutely base developers. But no, so yeah, there's something, and that's before the event happens, right? So when we go back to like the idea of extending the life cycle of a ticket, you see like just firsthand how widespread that can be. So that's one thing, and then the other thing, of course, is actually using the NFT tickets as a post-event membership building tool, and that's something that's only going to grow from pretty much next month onwards. So we had like this big smart contract update at GetProtocol. So every single event has its own smart contract, which means all of those NFT tickets can basically be plugged into a number of Web3 platforms, and you just use the smart contract address as the validator. So we really want to just roll that out to event organizers and our ticketing partners, see where like the interest is, and go from there. and all of the Web3 platforms that are available. There's so many of them. It's going to be really exciting to see actually what brings value to these artists and their fans. So yeah, those are the two big ones coming up over the next couple of months.
Great. Colby, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Exploring the Blockchain. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Colby.
Yeah, thanks guys. Pleasure being here. Cheers.